Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. April 10th, 2018.
Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
I love done to hate, Trump far beyond my pain.
What's going on in our country? What's going on in our nation? Have we descended or ascended? Are we up? Are we down? Is it a better place or a worse place? Is it the best of times or the worst of times? This is the Savage Nation trying to help you understand exactly what is going on. And you will see at the end of today's show that Mueller and Trump are chess pieces in a death struggle, and we do not know who will win. Remember what I just said. I've been watching this case as much as you have, as much as I could, on television. And what I see are two men of immense power and strength fighting with each other for supremacy. It looks as though it's wearing on Mueller more than it is wearing on Trump. Mueller looks like he's being worn down in a game in which he is somewhat over his head. Whoever put him up to this has now pushed him beyond his abilities, in my opinion. He will fight to the end, by the way. Mueller is a fighter. Mueller is a war hero. He carries shrapnel. He has a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star. He fought in Vietnam in combat. The man is a fighter, and he comes from a great background. But it does not mean he is not corruptible, and I believe he has gone over the edge. Yesterday on this program, I said to you that it was a bad day for America, a bad day for the law, and certainly the death of the attorney-client privileges that we have become used to in this nation. We also mentioned the Soviet Union. There was a head of the secret police named Lavrenti Beria who said, "Show me the man and I'll show you the crime." A caller tipped me to it, but I had forgotten that last year I gave a whole show in which I talked about Beria. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. This bloodthirsty dwarf who was the head of the Soviet secret police. Certainly, Mueller is not like Beria at this time. But in the broad sweep of history, you could argue that Mueller is doing the same thing he is saying, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. He was one of the most vicious and mysterious figures in Stalin's government. Once Stalin met a delegation of workers from the Ural Mountains. When the workers left, Stalin, the dictator, looked around for his pipe, but he couldn't find it. He called Beria, the head of the secret police, and said, Lavrenti, my pipe disappeared after the visit of those workers. Yes, Yosef Vissarionovich, I'll immediately take proper measures. 10 minutes later, Stalin pulled out a drawer in his desk and saw his pipe. He struck a match, puffed out a ring of smoke, and dialed Beria's number. Lavrenti, my pipe's been found. Beria said, what a pity. All of them have just confessed. This reminds me of what is going on right now. It is very clear to me that whether Mueller has destroyed the Sixth Amendment right to counsel, whether he has squashed probable cause to obtain the search warrant and to sic the Southern District on Trump, is a question for the courts and the people to decide. But remember, while we are discussing this in the court of public opinion, our court has almost no influence whatsoever on the court where criminals are tried. You must remember that. Yeah, I believe that Cohen's rights were stepped on. In order to get a search warrant, a prosecutor has to demonstrate to a judge that they have probable cause to search the premises which they believe contains evidence of a crime. And they have to specify the items to be searched and seized. Did you hear what I just said? That is the constitutional requirement where the Sixth Amendment right to counsel kicks in. But what about the Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable searches, something used mainly by liberal lawyers in every case in the United States of America? There are many cases where cops have found pounds of cocaine in the trunk of a car, and judges have thrown the case out saying the cop had no right to look in that trunk because there was a Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable searches. I've seen the cases over and over again. So how did he go to a judge and get the right to seize and search Mueller? And what is his end game? The real question here is not whether or not he had the right. It doesn't matter whether he had the right because he did it. He found the judge. They shopped for the judge. They overrode people within the Southern District who were appointed by Trump. Remember I talked about him yesterday? He recused himself. And they shopped it to the holdovers, probably from the Obama administration, who rubber-stamped Mueller's Gestapo tactics. And they went in, and God knows what they're going to find. And it's for all of us to see what they will find. At the same time this is going on, there is an ongoing Senate hearing on Zuckerberg. And I've watched it from the beginning. And I got to tell you that Zuckerberg is one smart cookie. He's as tough as nails, smart, unflappable, and we see that there are two generations involved here in the Zuckerberg hearings, the very old and the very young. There are two Americas that we're looking at in the Zuckerberg trials. You've got men like Grassley, you couldn't even say the word app. He said the word apt, A-P-T. I hear everything. He didn't know what an app was, but he used the word, you've developed an apt, where people can do this and can do that. He didn't know where he was. Then Grassley, the interrogator, says, we're going to limit ourselves to the 5-year rule here. Oh, I mean the 5-minute rule. Even the audience broke out in laughter. Then there was the Queen of Diamonds there, Dianne Feinstein, the Dragon Lady herself, making believe that she really cares what Zuckerberg may have done or not done when he's in her backyard. So the fact of the matter is there are two clown shows going on right now in two rings. And I, as the ringmaster of the Savage Nation, I'm here to discuss both of them today on the Savage Nation. And I invite you to call with a couple of specific questions for my audience. At the bottom of this hour, I have one of the most prominent criminal defense attorneys in America to join us, Daniel Horowitz. He happens to be my personal attorney, and he didn't pay off anyone on my behalf. I can guarantee you that, because I got nothing to hide. But I've known Daniel a very long time. Daniel has represented some really bad people. But more specifically, I don't know if you know this about Daniel Horowitz. He represented the former president of Ukraine, and he flew to Ukraine. He'll tell you about that because Ukraine's fingerprints are all over this deal here with Mueller. This is a very deep story, and the tentacles of Mueller reach all the way into Ukraine and Russia. So again, he will join us, Dan Horowitz. He sent me an email during the show yesterday, and here is his headline. Subject, the Mueller looking at Trump and Ukrainian Pinchuk is baloney. And here's what he wrote to me. He said, this is a very strange story. If Trump's organization or charity got a donation from Viktor Pinchuk, the New York Times indicates that it may be a problem. Pinchuk is the son-in-law of former Ukraine dictator Kuchma. Kuchma was generally pro-Russian, and he made the largest amount of his money by selling Ukraine government-owned assets to himself and family members for pennies on the dollar. This was standard in all the post-Soviet Union countries. Pinchuk has made major efforts to stabilize and westernize Ukraine for reasons that I do not know. In part, it protects his many billions, that is stability, but he may also have legitimate democratic beliefs. But the strangest part is that Pinchuk, and less personally and more politically, his father-in-law Kuchma, is very close, pay attention audience, to the Clintons. They vacation with him, and he has donated tens of millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation. Did you hear what I just said to you? Again, it goes back to the Clintons, who are not being investigated by Smoking Mueller. Smoking Mueller is going after Trump, which you may say is fair, but he's not going after the Clintons, which I say is unfair. So we're looking at the Fourth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, We're looking at so-called firewalls in our Constitution that have been broken down by Mueller. We now see governmental agents acting like the Soviet agents of the past to break down not only our constitutional rights to search and seizure and to due process, but also destroying our trust in the legal system itself. And this is all over alleged payments to the filthy porn star, Stormy Degenerate. It is sickening to me that this country has degenerated to this level. There are far bigger crimes and misdemeanors than whether or not Donald Trump stooped Stormy Daniels and his lawyer paid her off to shut her mouth. It's highly likely that there may be some fire where there is smoke with regard to paying off this dirtbag. But the fact of the matter is that may not be a crime. In fact, Cohen may have paid off this degenerate slut, but it doesn't mean he committed a crime in doing so. Do you understand that? So what is Mueller's end game? It's not to get Cohen at all. You're watching the shadows on the wall. Read your Plato. You're only seeing the shadows on the wall. It's not about Cohen. It's not about the degenerate slut and the payments to her. What it's about is squeezing Cohen, to break Cohen, to squeeze Cohen, to turn on someone in Trump's inner circle, to go after Trump's family through Trump's personal lawyer is the end game. And I'm going to tell you right now what I think, because I'm not going to wait to the next segment. I'm not going to tease you. It's this. It's simple. Mueller and his gang are trying to get someone in Trump's family to the point of a crime that will put them in prison. They will then go, that's if there was such a crime. I got to say if. Financial, taxes, whatever. If they can get to that through emails through Cohen, they're going to go to Trump and they're going to present them with a rock and a hard place decision. Either resign or we'll put your ex in prison. I'll be right back. Be here or be nowhere.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
I don't know what this is. It's not the song I asked for. It's not doing it for me. But welcome back. Let's forget the music. It doesn't matter, really. What matters is what comes out of my mouth, not what comes out of the musicians' instruments, not right now. Yesterday, after the show, I tweeted President Trump. I was trying to reach him directly. Time to fire Mueller. He exceeded his fake Russia mandate. Do not fear fake news people. I mean, I was very clear. Fire Mueller, period. Take the heat, because those who hate you are going to hate you anyway, and those who support you are going to support you anyway. That's my opinion. Now, whether he will do it or not, I don't know. Then we had the false flag event of the gas attack in Syria that occurred so conveniently a day before the warmonger, the Walrus, appears on the scene, which was shocking to me. It was so orchestrated it could have been a bad script for a bad TV show, that a day before a warhawk, chicken hawk warhawk, becomes national security advisor, implanted by the same people who got us into Iraq on the false pretense of weapons of mass destruction. A day before, all of a sudden, there's a gas attack, allegedly by Assad in Russia. Why would they do that when they're winning the war and they almost have Syria completely in their hand? Why would they turn the whole world against them? And I hope Donald Trump sees through this and allows a proper investigation to proceed on who actually perpetrated the gas attack, because we don't know. It could have been their own side. They do that to their own people. They're like animals. They don't care about their own people. They've done it before. They'll do it again. But I want to go back to the bigger issue, which is domestic right now, which is, I hope you heard what I said at the beginning of this show. I will make it simple again. Irrespective of whether Cohen paid off some low-life slut who may have slept with the president, that is not a crime, by the way, as you'll hear from my defense attorney. It's not a crime to pay anyone hush money. I don't know if you know that. There was no crime here. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to investigate Cohen's emails, everything they can find, emails, you name it, phone records, to try to get something else. That's a smokescreen, the Smokey Daniels. If they can find something else that implicates someone in Trump's family in some business dealing that may have been a little off the beam, or a tax thing that Cohen, I'm saying if now, anything he can get his hands on, what they will do is indict that family member and try to destroy the family member. And once they have that family member in the vice, if they get that far through Cohen's private correspondence, what they will do is they will present Trump with a very Machiavellian decision, rock and a hard place. Either step down with honor or we'll put your ex in jail, meaning the relative. That's what I think is going on here. That's what I can see. And it doesn't take a genius to see it, because this is the typical tactic of prosecutors in criminal cases, especially high-profile criminal cases such as what they used against the mafia in New York City. And many of these prosecutors under Mueller, especially in the Southern District, made their bones by busting organized crime in New York. Never forget that. They're using the same tactics that they used in organized crime trials and pretrials and pretrial maneuvering to go after President Trump. Now, in a bigger picture, if I were on another planet or another universe looking down, I would say how boring this country has become, how predictably sick it has become, that we first saw the indictment and impeachment of Bill Clinton based upon lying to Congress over sex with an intern. Remember that one? And the Democrats have been waiting now all these years to get even and to impeach a Republican. It's like tit for tat. That's all it is on a bigger scale. Now, even if they should impeach Trump, and they just might, it wouldn't mean anything, because they impeached Bill Clinton. He stayed in office. So it's a waste of our intellectual energy to even engage in this crap. The world is burning. Animals are being slaughtered who shouldn't be touched. The land is being poisoned. The air is being poisoned. The waters are being poisoned. Man's mind is being dragged into the slutty gutters of the universe because of bickering, partisan politics. How can Trump survive this? What should he do to save his presidency? Dan Horowitz with us when I return.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE.
I am you and you are me. Yeah, ooh-coo-ca-choo. It's all crazy. The whole thing is a game. It's shadows on the wall. There's Zuckerberg. They're making believe they're grilling him. It's a fake Stalinist hearing in reverse. Do you know that Facebook and associated groups with Facebook donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to the very senators who are grilling him? And he met with them privately yesterday. They think they're fooling me? You have any idea how much money he gave to Feinstein and the others there, making believe they're actually grilling him? The whole thing is a charade. That's number one. Then, wait, before we get back to Trump and Cohen with my attorney, Dan Horowitz, Zuckerberg testifying before Congress shows how great Facebook is by saying, we helped support the Me Too movement. We helped support the anti-gun March for Our Lives. We watch for hate speech, meaning we kill any conservative sites we don't like. We look out for fake news. We're interested in foreign interference. Russia, 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 Russia. So he's using this cleverly, the elf, to promote the left-wing Gestapo in the United States of America. He contributed to the committees that question him. It's beyond comprehension what a game this is. But getting back to the big story, Dan Horowitz is my attorney, he's the only attorney in America that I trust. Dan, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Hi,
Dan, you're watching this whole thing with Trump, and you sent me an email that the Mueller looking at Trump and Ukrainian Pinchuk is baloney, which I read on the show, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But look, you actually go into the courts. I go in the court of public opinion. How is this going to play out in your opinion?
Well, I think right now you've got this Pinchuk matter, which is ridiculous. A Clinton supporter, a personal friend of the Clintons, gave some money to Trump to speak before he was anybody, really, just Trump. and they're making a fuss about it. That guy has nothing to do with Russia or payouts. It shows how crazy this Mueller investigation has gone. Anything is on the table. Or let me put it this way, Michael. Is there anybody who's going to pick up the phone and call into your show and say that they are blame-free entirely their entire life? Because if Mueller looks at any listener on the show, if he wants to, he'll find something, even if it's jaywalking. But he'll find something on all of us.
So it goes back to Beria, the secret police chief under Stalin, who said, "Show me the man and I'll show you the crime."
That's, I wish I had quotes like that at my fingertip. That's exactly it, Michael.
All right, but now, as a criminal defense attorney, you've interviewed some really heavy-duty people in your life. I'm not going to mention them. You also represented the former president of Ukraine, didn't you?
Yeah, former Prime Minister Pavel Lazarenko, who was very much involved with Pinchuk and Clinton and Kuchma and all sorts of crazy corruption involving our government targeting Ukrainian opposition politicians. And our government went after people at the behest of the dictator of Ukraine, who strangely was pro-Russian. So Clinton was helping the pro-Russian dictator of Ukraine in the Lazarenko case to go after a man who was pro-U.S. and pro-Western and push him out of power. It's a twisted web.
It's hard for me to follow, but Dan, when you went to Ukraine, what was this, like 7-8 years ago?
Yeah, it was more like 10, 12 years ago.
But I was on the radio. I remember you were telling me about the odd goings-on, the stuff you could disclose in Ukraine. How did you come to represent the former Prime Minister of Ukraine? How did they find you?
He was locked up waiting trial on charges related to crimes he allegedly committed while in Ukraine. He did nothing different than the people currently in power in Ukraine or people who've been in power since the fall of the Soviet Union. But because our government, through Clinton and Gore, made a deal to prosecute Lazarenko, he was arrested, kept in jail, and I met him in the jail when I was visiting other clients, and we just got along. So he said, "Will you represent me?"
How did that case turn out for him?
Everything I handled was dismissed. The judge threw out all the charges, all the international corruption. One count, unfortunately, another attorney on our team handled, and that was lost. That was an individual, isolated case between him and another man who lied, and he spent 9 years in prison for doing nothing wrong, supporting the U.S. against...
Didn't he have by the way, on a side trivial note, didn't he have a big home up in Novato, California that went for sale?
He bought a home, either for himself or his political party or both in the U.S. And it was Eddie Murphy's old house, and it had 7 little swimming pools, and it was big and beautiful, and nobody in their right mind would want to live in it. It's too big. It was too much.
Well, all I can say is anyone listening to the show better be careful because Dan's my attorney. Don't mess with me. So, Dan, come on, attorney-client privilege. You go into prisons like San Quentin, Pelican Bay, without mentioning names. You talk to some pretty heavy dudes, right?
Right.
Are the prison officials allowed to listen in as you speak with them?
They're not allowed to listen in to what I say to my clients, and in areas where I know the people, where I know the deputies or the guards, I know they don't listen in. If I'm going out of my sphere of direct influence, I have to assume that they are going to listen, even though they're not supposed to.
So on what basis? Well, let's turn it around another way. So Mueller shops this case to the Southern District because he knows he can't do it because it's outside the purloin of the so-called collusion with Russia, and he knows he'll be slammed for it. So he cleverly goes to the Southern District, and they shop it to a judge who was not appointed by Trump, sitting in there from the Obama years. The judge issues the right to seize, violating the 6th and 4th, and they go into Cohen's emails, his hotel room, is this, is that. Do you agree with me that the grand strategy of Mueller is to squeeze something out of those emails that have nothing to do with Russia and to indict a member of Trump's family and then squeeze Trump with a either resign thing or we put him in jail?
You're totally right, because you know that Cohen is vulnerable, he's scared, and Trump doesn't have the power to support him. Why? Because this, in my view, is the revenge of Jeff Sessions. He is not only standing back, but he is letting his office sign off on.
Right. I said this yesterday, that Sessions is behind this.
Yeah.
So you're actually concurring that you think that that's true.
Of course. He could stop it at any time. This is so far afield of any Russia investigation. This has nothing to do with Donald Trump.
So why is Sessions going after Trump? Is it because it became a personal fight between the two of them that Trump started to put him down? Is that what's going on here?
Well, I mean, I think you've got several forces. I mean, Sessions and Trump hate each other, and Trump is stuck with him. I think Mueller is just even though he's a very heralded man and respected by so many, once you give somebody unlimited budget, basically, unlimited power, basically, and he can't come up and say there's nothing. He can't say, I didn't find anything, it's fine, just a bunch of little things, I'm going to ignore it. He's got to come up with something, and I think he is frustrated that he's turned up nothing on Donald Trump, and he's not going to.
So what does it do for him to get Cohen? He's going to try to find collateral issues with through Cohen to do with the family?
Right. He's going to bring in the family. He's going to crush Trump. But also keep in mind that the laws are so complicated, particularly in terms of election rules. And why could Hillary Clinton, through her foundation, take millions from countries and get away with it, but you can't give $130,000 to a porn person to shut her mouth so your wife and child are not embarrassed? These rules are so complicated that you can analyze the rules and get almost anybody involved with Trump in some sort of violation of the law. The best example may be Martha Stewart. We remember that she was investigated for a crime relating to stocks. She was completely innocent, but she lied to investigators, so she was sent to prison.
Hold it. Martha Stewart, wasn't who did her, Comey or Mueller?
Oh, I don't remember. That's a great question.
Yeah, it was the same people.
Yeah.
They put this remarkably successful woman in prison, not for the crime they were allegedly investigating, but because they so mixed her up during the hearing that she lied to them.
Right.
And then they nailed her to a cross.
Yeah. It's the absolute power corrupts theory. You're giving Mueller a type of absolute power. The Attorney General can't fire him. Trump can't fire him. He can do what he wants, and he's a human being. He's not going, without checks and balances, he is scary to me.
Okay, what can Trump do? Dan Horowitz, brilliant white-collar defense attorney. This is a death struggle, as I said, between Mueller and Trump. These are two powerful men fighting to the death. What can Trump do to save his presidency? Is there a legal means to save Trump? In the court of public opinion right now, it's probably still 50-50. It doesn't matter. All that matters is the courts themselves. What can Trump do to save his presidency? First
of all, never talk to Mueller or any of his people.
Bingo.
That he's making believe he's going to, because nothing good will come out of it. They will.
That's what I said. The same thing. Don't go before that snake.
It's not a question of a fair hearing. It's not a question of Trump being able to convince him or share with him. He knows that he's got nothing on Trump, so he's trying to talk to Trump to ask him questions. Like we talked to Jared Kushner. He said X. Is that true? And then Trump is going to be used against his own son-in-law or his own daughter. That's what they're trying to do, destroy the family. Don't talk to him and find some constitutional basis not to do it. Hire Alan Dershowitz, and he'll shut them down. I don't know legally how you don't talk to Mueller if he demands it, but you don't.
Would you use Dershowitz? Because Dershowitz is pretty clear yesterday after my show. He said the same things I did, which is that it's a dangerous day for the lawyer-client privilege. You agree the same thing, but is Dershowitz the best man for that job today? Dershowitz is a little past his prime.
About somebody who the public...
I mean, Dershowitz is not the strongest stallion in the stable anymore, is he?
Well, I mean, he's getting old like I am, but I think us old guys still have some tricks up our sleeve. I think.
Why doesn't Trump hire Dan Horowitz?
Yeah, I'd fight. Tell you that. But let me.
I know that. I remember the times that you stayed up with me 3 a.m. when I was under the gun, and I was able to call you at home and bother your wife and children. And you talk to me at 3 a.m. You're a great attorney, and when you take a case on, you make it very personal, don't you?
I make it personal, but when we work together, even though it can be like very upsetting and scary and threatening, it's always fun. And that's in life. You have to have fun, even when you're, in battle. You really...
You're two boys from Queens. I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
So Dan, is there anything Trump can do other than not talking to Mueller to save his skin?
I think he's got to address the public the way he has been and say this attacks attorney-client privilege. Again and again, if people are listening, he's saying there is no collusion. All right? He's not just saying that. He means it. And maybe have more people coming out and explaining why this crusade against Trump has to stop.
All right, here's what I want to do. Dan, can you stay with us another 5 minutes after our great ad cluster here?
Yes.
Folks, I have a few open lines. It's 855-407-282. You can have one shot to reach one of the most prominent white-collar defense attorneys in the world, Dan Horowitz, only by calling into the Savage Nation when I return, which is 855-407-282. Back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now. 855-400-SAVAGE. 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Before we go back to the issue of Mueller and what he's doing, exceeding his status and his mandate, and speaking with Dan Horowitz, the great criminal defense attorney and my personal attorney, I want to talk about something very down to earth, which is your car. Have you ever taken your car in for an oil change and the mechanic finds something wrong and bingo, you're hit with a repair bill you didn't expect? It's happened to everyone listening to this show. But if you have extended vehicle protection from CarShield, you're not going to worry about those unexpected surprises. Look, if your car breaks down after the manufacturer's warranty expires, you could be out of pocket thousands to get it fixed. Replacing your engine alone can cost thousands. Even a simple repair to a sensor, over $1,000. And there's nothing simple about today's cars. CarShield makes the process of fixing your car for a covered repair super easy. You can even have your own mechanic or dealership do the work. You pick them. It's your choice. They'll also provide you 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car while yours is being fixed for free. It's a great deal. So listen carefully. If your car has 5,000 to 150,000 miles, it doesn't mean you have to pay high repair bills. CarShield administrators have paid out close to $2 billion in claims, and they're ready to help you. Save yourself thousands in future car repairs. Get covered by the ultimate in extended vehicle protection. Just call 800-CAR-6100. That's 800-CAR-6100. You mention code SAVAGE, or you visit carshield.com, code SAVAGE. You're going to get 10% off your deal. That's carshield.com, code SAVAGE, or call 800-CAR-6100, code SAVAGE. A deductible may apply. Let's go back to Dan Horowitz. Dan, by the way, the lead federal prosecutor in the case against Martha Stewart was the very same James Comey who, when he was asked why he put her in jail, said, Martha Stewart is being prosecuted not for who she is, but because of what she did, said Mr. Comey, the U.S. State Attorney for the Southern District of New York, in June 5th of 2003. We have a question right now from Judy on WABC Line 6. Judy, what's your question for Dan Horowitz?
Okay, thank you for taking my call. Mr. Horowitz, let me ask you a question. They obtained a FISA warrant through a lying, politically bought dossier from Hillary and the whole thing. So isn't that illegal and enough to therefore make Mueller null and void to begin with?
And what do you...
Judy, it's a good question. Here's the situation. You're talking common sense. You're talking what everyone listening to the show knows and believes. But when it comes to warrants, once a judge has looked at the warrant and put the stamp of approval on it, pretty much they go through, unless you can prove later after the fact that there was deliberate lying and withholding of evidence by the government. And even though you may believe it and say it, you see how these things get bounced around like ping pong balls. You don't really prevail in the courts. One judge always protects the issuing judge who issued the warrant.
I want someone listening to my show, and I have a vast audience of intelligent people, to research which federal judge granted the right to break down the doors of Mr. Cohen. Who was the federal judge who acted like Leventi Beria and said, show me the man and I'll show you the crime? Who was the judge who appointed him? Dan, can you stay with us for a few minutes after the top of the hour and take some questions?
Yes, I can, man.
Dan Horowitz, Lafayette, California, my attorney, says it like it is, knows what he's talking about. Mueller and Trump in a death struggle. Who will win? What can Trump do to save his presidency? Your questions when I return. Is there a legal means to save Trump?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Me, a cat, moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
So, I'm a dog, and I'm kind of new to this family, but I've noticed a trend. My humans do this thing where they go around and get all my toys and hide them in this basket. But it's always the same basket, and it's always the same place. And then they act so surprised when I find them. But I'm like, hello? That's where you put it last time. Humans are the worst at hide and go seek.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.